Thanks for staying with us. You're watching Standpoint. We're having that conversation on the fuel subsidy removal and that announcement that was made by President Bola Tinubu at his inauguration, where he said oil subsidy is gone. And that we saw the result and the effect of that particular statement, where a lot of filling stations started pretending, as it were, not to have the product, just waiting for an opportunity for pump price increase, and we have now seen that pump price increase. I still have with me, joining us from Abuja studio, presidential candidate of Social Democratic Party in the last election, Adewale Adebayo. We also have a development policy analyst, Alexander Oji, who is joining us via Zoom. Thank you both for staying with us. I want to bring, for a few minutes, take reaction from Nigerians, because Nigerians have been reacting to this, and we caught some of this reaction on camera. Let's get this reaction from Nigerians to the fuel subsidy removal.
Look at it. 502 naira.
We are suffering today because we have refused to help ourselves. The announcement that was made yesterday was supposed to take effect, if at all, from July 1st. So we are just opportunists who have decided to take over whatever was said. And this is very sad. And that is why this country is what it is today.
It's bad. It's bad. It's people that want the government to be saying government is not good, though. Government is not good. They are the people. Well, they never buy for a new price, though. It's the same old price. They never increase them. The one they buy down, they want to sell higher price.
Mr. President may have announced that subsidy is gone, but not for people who already have products to be selling for us less than 24 hours, 502. That is inhumanity to human.
I feel people take advantage of situation of things, and they want to benefit at the expense of others. Because I believe that removal of the fuel subsidy is the best thing to happen to Nigeria.
And all the petrol stations has begun to halt their petrol. If you look at what is going on in here now, we've been queuing for more than 2 hours, yet we have not been able to get fuel.
I subscribe to it. The reason is that those cabals, the people who are highly placed, they use that as a means of siphoning the economy.
And there you have it, Nigerians reacting to the fuel subsidy removal and the impact we have seen, especially from the filling stations themselves, who, first of all, were hoarding it, and then the pump price increase. I want to bring in Mr. Adebayo, because if you listen to that particular reaction, one thing was clear. I'm not sure most of them were against the removal, if not, at least a few of them did support it. But there was just a general confusion as to why there is an increase in the pump price when this is supposed to take effect, from their own understanding, from June 30th. And they also believe that the product now being sold for a higher price is a subsidized product. You already had product. So why are you selling for a higher price? I want to get your reaction to that, Mr. Adebayo.
Well, we are now leaving the realm of policy to realm of behavioral science. But it's clear that in the market, in market economics, anywhere you see arbitrage, people are going to want to take advantage of the arbitrage, because that is probably some of the unintended consequences of that policy statement coming there. And you might say, okay, the marketers were greedy. I think it's greed that took them into the business of petrol in the first place. So that is capitalist greed. You want to maximize profit. But it turned out that there was a differential in the understanding. Those who are on the policy side thought that the subsidy regime will end on June 30. Those who are on the business side knew that it will end the next day, because as it turned out, NNPC is not waiting until June 30. So I don't want us to spend too much time, analyzing, doing the analytics of social behavior on an issue that is predictable. That if you are going to have price differential, the person who has a stock, if in cost accounting, has to think about, do I use historical costs, the cost at which I got this product to price, or do I use replacement cost, the cost at which I'm going to buy if I sell now? And that is the microeconomics for the person. So the regulators should have predicted that and mounted these places and warned them we are going to make a policy change tomorrow, but announcement, but don't panic and don't sell beyond this, you will lose your license. Those are things they can do, but now everything has equalized because the new price has come. All the queues that you had, people themselves were trying to take advantage. Let me just show you the price mechanism behavior. Both the people who came to buy and the people who are selling, they have the same greed in their mind. Because many people who went to rush to buy, they didn't need petrol at that time. They were trying to take advantage of the price differential. And those who were selling were also trying to take advantage of price differential. So, but in terms of policy, what I want us to understand is that if you believe, as majority of Nigerians believe, by the way they voted, that subsidy has to go, the way President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has implemented it is the only way option for you. Because if you believe, I don't believe in that school of thought, but let me put myself in their shoes. If you believe that the subsidy itself is the problem, then their school of thought is now divided into two. Those who believe in gradualism, and they have been the one in power for the past several decades, they will say, okay, increase a bit, reduce the burden. And those who say it has to go once and for all, take the haircut, receive the shock at one time, and then exit that regime and go into the market, and then everybody will be okay. So that is the school of thought that he believes. So of all the three political parties, and Labour added to them, that's Labour, organized Labour, TVC, and all of them believe in this subsidy must go. Because if you look at the Labour movement, they supported a party and a candidate that said, I will remove subsidy on day one. So there should be no ambiguity and there should be no confusion that, oh, maybe organized Labour is not against, he doesn't want subsidy to go. Organized Labour, TUC, NLC, all of them want subsidy to go. They supported candidates who said subsidy will go. What we may be quarreling about now is whether they want to squeeze the government into making some macroeconomic or some, let me just narrow it down to some fiscal inflationary decision, like increased salary and some other spending that don't have the ability to add fillip to the economy. So the government may want to sit down and say, no, I've already exited the regime of subsidy. The savings there for 2023 is already gone. So maybe what do I do next? Maybe I will try to look for other ways. And I will recommend to them, don't inflate the economy by nominally increasing cost of labor and all of that, because in the end, it would kill everybody. Secondly, you cannot kick the can down the road. So if you want to remove subsidy, if you believe in it, remove it once and for all. Don't dance around it. And in the course of my campaign, I consulted people who were in charge of the government before. I wanted to be president, so I spoke to people who had been president. And I asked them about these issues. Those who didn't remove subsidy, or those who couldn't remove subsidy, told me that it was one of the decisions that they regret. They think they should have removed it. So those who believe that subsidy should go, better just suck up the situation and then deal with how to manage the side effects of it, which is not difficult. However, the investment you need to make can now be in two ways. You can make the investment in terms of real sector, or you can go and full what we call illusion of money. You can now raise minimum wage from 30,000 to 100,000. It's up to you. Mr.
Adeboye, let me get to you shortly on solutions, because we know that Labour has said, look, they are going to embark on strike from Wednesday if the NNPC doesn't reverse to the original price. But let me bring in Mr. Orji. Two issues here. One of them is the issue of gradualism, which Mr. Adeboye has stated that some people believe that, look, this should be phased gradually and perhaps with consultations and with some palliatives put in place and not the immediate removal. I would like you to speak to that. But I would also like you to speak to my original question earlier. Whilst the immediate release of the price template by NNPC, what you make of that? I know that NNPC has said, that's the GCO has said, whilst there was provision made till June 30th in the budget, but there was no cash backing to that provision. But also speak to the price template released immediately and then the issue of phasing it out gradually?
Okay, let me start with the issue regarding the price template released. In a recent interview granted by the GCO of NNPC Limited, Mele Kayore, he did admit that those in circulation, the list, was actually from NNPC. But indeed, in his defense, he said, like every other businesses, they have their price templates. It was for the consumption and for the internal use of NNPC to set its price based on the shock of the markets. So it was not a determinant, for every operator or seller in the industry. And in reflection, before I left Lagos as at yesterday or day before yesterday, some people were selling much less than that particular price template, and some were selling about that price or even slightly higher. What you've seen is that it may act as a guideline for others to set their prices, in as much as they have the stocks, the actual stocks in the market now. But what will happen when they run off the current stocks they have and they now have to go bring in additional products? That's when the real prices may set in, because you have the depot price, you have all other prices that sets, including union and the rest of them. Then you have the landing cost at the fuel stations. Then, of course, the expected sales, and of course, some who want to make quick returns will want to sell much less. But again, it leaves much questions again for the GCO to answer, because if these prices are being released based on, in his own words, they have about 1 billion liters. To what degree is this billion liters in your capacity? Is it based on the fact that Nigerian has actually paid subsidy on this particular 1 billion liters as he has claimed? Or is it the products that have not undergone the subsidy reclaims, as it would always seem to appear? That would have been ideal for us to get that question from him before one can actually respond appropriately. But again, I want to respond also to the question as regarding implementing this gradually. The truth be told, it has come to go, it has come to stay, it has come to stay. The earlier we embrace it, the better for us all as a Nigerian. Because we must look at the factuality of leaving this whole entity, so-called subsidy, that has over the years eaten so deep into our fiber. To date, no one is able to give an accurate figure of what has been paid in subsidies. No one has been able to give the accuracy in the determinants of the payments of this. In one of the circulating videos of a word said by the former emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, who actually said that the ideal thing would be to even vet the vessels that brought in these products, because it expected that the insurance companies would be, informed and fully with the details of these vessels. That one way to checkmate this is to visit the insurance companies, let them make submissions. Through that process, you can actually verify and vet if indeed these XYZ products were actually brought into the country. Because there's been so much claims, the fact that so much leaves the country into our neighboring borders, and yet nobody is able to, has been captured and prosecuted. Again, we heard the GCO on a live interview admit that it is possible that in some cases, some people, after claiming the subsidy, will still take the same product out and still bring it back and reclaim another subsidy. What this now is telling us that it is actually being confirmed that these are criminal activities. And one thing, I'm happy, is that the president, in his recent pronouncements, said that he has given the security operatives to go after the oil tips. I know many may, in their words of hearing him and not listening to the president, think he's only referring to those breaking pipes in the Niger Delta and other regions. But indeed, a thief is a thief. Those who are stealing our money through the subsidy will also be included. And I'm happy now he's coming with a new dynamic regarding these whole processes. What we should now be clamoring for is that we hold him accountable to the very promises he made to Nigerians. Which is, first of all, we agree he's not going to be able to do all this alone. Never. What I'm happy is that there seems to be overwhelming support and show of solidarity and understanding by the people. For the short commentary you ran now about the people's response to this, the clamor is not the fact that the subsidy was removed, but the way and manner the people who are taking advantages of it are doing.
And let me speak on that issue, Mr. Orji, to Mr. Adebayo, because that's a worry for a lot of people going forward, especially now that we spoke with, TVC spoke with Mr. Melekiari, the GCE of NMPCL. And one of the things he said, and again, you know, that's the basics for any sector that has been deregulated. Of course, market forces is expected to determine the price. But we also cannot take away the human factor. And one worries about whether, because especially now that, you know, where one wonders where regulation lies. And, you know, you want to think about what to do about some individuals in that sector who want to take advantage of the fact that, look, we can determine the price, you know, who will now become the market forces themselves to determine the price. How do you handle those kind of situations where some people are going to fix exorbitant price, you know, in terms of, and they will start production, procurement, and logistics?
You see, let's start with, you either govern or you don't govern. As I told you before, the worst of the arguments with respect to subsidy, why you should remove it, is this argument that you can't determine the quantity, you can't control the waste. If you can't control the waste in a physical sector like petroleum, where if you're not the refinery or around the modular ones, unofficial ones, you are actually importing. And the ships have to come into Nigerian water. You can't enter Nigerian water without being piloted into Nigeria. If you cannot kill kill corruption and fraud in physical 33,000 liters of trucks crisscrossing our border, how are you going to kill corruption in arms procurement? How are you going to kill corruption in the area of payroll? Nigeria doesn't even know how many people are being paid in our armed forces. Maybe we can excuse civilians, but I don't know of any country that doesn't know the number of people serving them in uniform. That is ridiculous. So there are so many areas where you have corruption. You have corruption in road construction. How much is being paid to contractors to construct roads? So are you going to stop constructing roads because you can't control corruption there? Are you going to stop running the armed forces and stop buying platform for them because you can't control? Are you going to stop paying salaries because you can't control the corruption? Controlling corruption it's not an excuse to remove subsidy. The duty of government is to abolish corruption. It's in Chapter 2 of our Constitution. So I don't buy that argument at all. Then with respect to operations of the downstream sector, NNPC, they are experts in it. They cannot, the GMD, any GMD who tells you, I don't know the quantity we are consuming, immediately is telling you, fire me. How can you not know? They know. But whether you want to say it or not is a policy decision. But they know. The question we need to ask ourselves is that people assume that there's a government money sitting down somewhere which is available to pay for subsidy between now and June 30. No, many of them are unfunded mandates. The fact that something is provided for in the budget doesn't mean that the money, the cash, or the liquidity is there. So you will see that maybe later people will pay more attention to budgeting. That government has written something down in a budget doesn't mean the money is available. It's just like a housewife writing a list of items and taking to the husband and say, we want to buy this. The man might say, I haven't got my salary yet, or I don't want to have money for it, let's go and borrow. So writing a budget down in your house doesn't mean you have the money. So let's just understand that. So the money is not where. The money has been spoken for. The money is in deficit. But I don't want to bring Nigerians back because I don't want to cause confusion in the treatment of the issue. The policy has come. I wish it hadn't come. If I was president, I wouldn't do it. But it's been done. And it's been done by someone who is intelligent enough, is a new liberal economic player. He understands how to run the economy along neoliberal principles. So the president has done it the way, if I was a neoliberal, the way I would have done it, but I'm not. Now, there are other things you now need to do. Don't go and cause crisis for yourself and assuming that there is a labor union or labor group representing your interests. They are not. The labor is part of the government, the part of the elite in the government. The only way you can take care of the poor now is to find a way to get the people to not forget about mercenaries. Go straight to your elected officials and hold them accountable for investment in the social sector. Like, if you have increased the price of petrol, then you need to give us buses in the cities, especially if you can afford green buses that use solar and they use gas. That way, a worker wants to go to work can actually have alternative to the use of the car. Then you need to make more investments in other things that people spend their money on. You have to make sure that the cost of food doesn't go up, and there are ways to do that if you want to do that. You want to make sure that people also have savings, another thing they spend their money on. For example, if you make the public schools better, then poor people will not have to cough money to put their children in private schools. Then you need to do something about the value of the money. If you don't do something about the value of the money, you are just, even with the subsidy removed, the price will still keep increasing. And don't be deceived that if there's a Dangote refinery or there's a Adebayo refinery, and that because we are producing, the refinery is located in Nigeria, that the product is not priced in dollar. It is priced in dollar because everything that the refinery...
left, Mr. Adebayo, my apologies. I just want to give the last few minutes to Mr. Oji to respond to some of the things you've said, because you've talked about the issue around almost as though apart from the foreign exchange, it's almost as though for transportation, those are the palliatives and incentives you're asking government to put in place, almost like subsidizing the cost of living, like you mentioned earlier. And I want to Mr. Oji to respond to that, some of the incentives that should be put in place, and if he agrees with those incentives. And then, also just as to how we would meet our production capacity and production and consumption capacity in the country as well, with our refineries being down.
All right. Thank you again. Again, I agree with Mr. Adebayo in some of his renderings regards the palliatives. But we ask ourselves, in the past, did this level of palliatives of saying you give certain individuals to provide buses, did it work? And has it been sustainable? My own clamor has always been, if you want to do things, look for something that is sustainable. How does it transition to being something that can self-fund itself and continue? Because the idea of some people who are closer to the corridor of power to get these allocations, get some luxury buses and some luxury cars for themselves, after a while, the whole thing fades. We don't get it. Let me give you a typical example of what can work. During the CPN just concluded policy that we all know hurt the entire economy, Lagos State government was able to initiate about a 50% waiver on all its BRT and its taxes, new taxes, called the Lagos Ride. Many people were able to move easily, at least I would say, and speak of many, like myself. It was easy to commute because you could actually see the direct reduction of these prices and you're benefiting it on day-to-day basis. And each of the drivers were also not affected in expecting the funds to come from Lagos State because there was a trade-off discussions. So it did not hurt the drivers. It did not hurt we, the residents of Lagos. It did not also hurt the economy of Lagos because there was an agreed terms of rendering returns and also for each particular movement and logistics. That is what can work at the center. It is possible to provide this kind of measures and it will instantly cushion the effects on all Nigerians. Let's also look at what can the government do in buying the food from the farmers and subsidizing it to Nigerians so that the average poor man on the street can even if it's 1 meal a day. I tell you the secret of governing Nigeria. If an average man on the street can eat, even if it's 2 square meals of the day, he's not bothered about what billions you have in the account or who indeed is damaging the economy. It is now left for the government at the top to be able to checkmate by ensuring that we actually have the very best laws in Nigeria. The biggest challenge we've had is implementing. There is always a waiver, there's always a face before the law of saying, this is my brother-in-law, this is my brother, and as such, I cannot punish him. No, let the law take its course.
You've spoken to issues around food subsidy and transportation as well. And it means that, look, if this is also going to work, the state governors have to play a very active role in ensuring
pivotal role in this.
I agree. Their own citizens and residents also
the labor.
Absolutely. But, thank you both. I wish that we could continue this conversation. The president has said that, has talked about minimum wage. We'll see how that conversation goes. We wish we could have had the General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress. He did say he was going to join us, Nuhu Toro, but we couldn't have him. Hopefully, we'll have him in our subsequent conversations and get the side of Labour. Thank you both for talking to us. The presidential candidate of Social Democratic Party in the last general election, Adewale Adebayo, he joined us from our Abuja studio. We also had a development policy analyst,
and God bless Nigeria.
Thank you so much. You joined us via Zoom. Thank you for talking to us. Let's remind
Thank
Nigerians
you so much.
that you can.
Let's keep the dream and hope alive.
Let's remind Nigerians that you can watch again at 11 p.m. tonight and at 5 a.m. on Sunday morning. I am Precious Amayo. It has been Standpoint. Thanks for watching.